Okay, welcome Austin to our video series, and today we're going to be looking at critical thinking. And Austin, thanks for joining me today. Do you want to go into kind of what you do?
Currently, right now, I work at Amazon as a dispatch manager, but I went to school for industrial design. I specialize in transportation design. So when I was doing my internships, I did everything from I worked at Crown Lift Trucks, and then I also worked on a $2 million 52-foot yacht, which is about the size of a 18-wheeler.
That's awesome.
My
First and foremost,
capstone that we're going to talk about later is called Virwin. It is a card game similar to Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh!
so this is a game that we like to play in school currently. And of course, I teach K through fourth graders. And so when we're talking about designing our own games, we really talk about what is your setting going to be like? What are some of your features going to be like coins and power-ups, and kind of what your characters are going to do. And then they can build through this program called Bloxels. So we're going to kind of talk about how can we get started with game developing, and how is it related to critical thinking. So your task, students, to create your own story. I want you to use critical thinking skills after this video session to think about what video game you might develop. So let's see if we can look at any of those kind of critical thinking skills today.
Okay, so if you wanted to start developing your own game, where should you start? Where I started, went through all the games that I like playing. So, for example, I really like certain aspects about Yu-Gi-Oh! Or certain aspects about Magic, or for your guys' games, it could be something like you like Candy Crush. And the best thing to do is to pick something that you like and say, what don't I like about it? I went through and pretty much made a list of all the things that I don't like about something and what I would do to make it better. And then you make those things your goals for your new thing. So you're pretty much trying to find what we would call like a hole in the market. You're pretty much trying to find something that doesn't exist, and the best way to do that is to try to find problems with things that are already there. Your game is going to be, obviously, it's going to be different. You're not going to try to just rip off Crossy Roads.
Right.
But if you really like how the character moves in Crossy Roads, maybe that's something you try to make it better with things that you don't like about it.
Gotcha. So how did you get started with your game?
So my game came about, funny story. I was originally doing a police boat for my capstone. Through our market research and stuff that I had to do for it, I pretty much decided that the direction that it was going to need to go was not the direction that I wanted to use it. We have a bunch of friends where we always play cards on like the weekends. And, we were bored, so we were over there using our Magic cards to create a new game and make up our own rules as we were going along and stuff. And we had a bunch of notes where we decided like this is what we would do. I ended up really liking the idea and messaging my professor and saying, hey, can I switch my capstone to a card game? Well, I went to school for 5 years for transportation design, so he was a little apprehensive to let me do that. But he saw that I was interested in doing it, so he let me pretty much go with it. And from there, I had to do our normal design process. So I had to go through, like I said, find the things I liked, didn't like, where there are holes in the market that I could capitalize on, and then pretty much go from there. So me and my cousin wrote a long storybook for it, and then we started looking into like art styles and mechanics of the game and all that stuff.
So even though there's like a lot of fun and creativity and with gaming, I mean, there's just so many critical thinking skills, and you listed so many, like when you were just talking about the business side of it and looking at it analytically, and also having to just constantly question, is this going to be a positive change to the game? And those are all things that we have to think about when we're developing games, and just being a good 21st century learner. Okay, so it sounded like you're talking about your friends and you were playing, and then it sounds like a hobby, but you're turning your hobby into a job. How does that look for you?
For right now, it is still like a hobby that I'm trying to turn into a job. There is a lot more to making something that people want to buy than just making something cool. You have to think about like if it costs me X amount of dollars to make this, I need to sell it for Y amount of dollars to make a profit. And are people willing to pay for that? Is the quality there? That being said, you need a lot of like capital. So it's become more of like a slower thing and trying to develop the game as a hobby. But ideally, it would turn into something that is successful, that could be a full-time job. Something we're realizing now is that through talking to people and through looking at what's successful and what's not, digital is a lot better of an option. So if you have something that's only print, like only like physical cards, it kind of limits who can buy it. Whereas if you have a free app that everyone can download, all of your kids could download it in one day versus have to go out and convince their parents to spend money on it. So the hobby can turn into a job, but you have to kind of be careful with where you spend your money and what you put money into.
Absolutely. And you're currently, like you said, you're working with Amazon. There's a lot of companies like that you can start with them and then have that hobby and try to build up that business. Wow.
It ended up working out a little bit better. So hopefully once all the coronavirus stuff is over, look into getting an actual design job.
So what skills are required?
I think critical thinking is something that is a good one to try and teach and try and develop, because critical thinking goes into playing games. I think that a lot of parents and a lot of at least in my generation kind of look down at games, but it really can develop your critical thinking and strategy. I'm a big believer of the only skill that you need is hardworking and being passionate about something. So you can learn a skill. So I could only draw stick figures. Most of your kids could probably outdraw me when I first went into college. And after 5 years, I don't think they could now. So I think that the only skill that you really need is a willingness to like work hard at something.
I like that. So how do you learn new things and how do you stay inspired to be successful?
So the thing I'm waiting on now is really saving money to make more of the artwork. To the never stop learning part, you don't know how much you don't know until you realize you don't know something. It can be simple as learning a new tool in Photoshop or InDesign that you didn't know there. I know I was in school for 4 years and then someone showed me one button that could equally space everything in a program. I didn't know it was there. I was over there counting clicks and drawing little boxes to make sure everything was spaced evenly. Asking for people's opinions that you don't think their opinion is valuable. So all because someone doesn't have the same skill set as you, they may give you some of the best advice because they're looking at it from such an outside perspective. So I think talking to people is really the best way you can learn things. I forgot who said the quote, but there's a quote that I really liked that said, I'm not an expert in everything, but I surround people. I'm surrounded by people that are smarter than me. So like for some of my art, I did some of the art for my game. My art's not the best art that's in the game. I tried to pick people that I thought were better than me. So there's no shame in being on a team and knowing your role and knowing like who's strong at what in your group. So if you have someone that's really good at drawing and someone that's really good at writing papers, it would be kind of silly to have the person that's good at writing papers draw the cover art and have the person that's good at drawing write the paper.
Right.
So kind of knowing what you're good at and knowing what you want to be good at. Things that inspire me are is like if you show someone like what I've worked on and then they get excited about it, it makes me excited about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that helps when you've had a lot of like setbacks, to talk to somebody that you think is into it, and that will kind of rejuvenate you a little bit.
I like that. And you have to be patient and find opportunities and just keep staying passionate, because it doesn't just happen overnight. So
I know something they told us in school with time management was take how long do you think it's going to take you to do something and multiply it by 3. So if you think it's going to take you an hour, it's going to take 3 at least. So if you think it's going to take you a year, it might take 3.
Right. Right. So what are you creating now? So could you maybe show us a little bit of your stuff?
First thing I'll pull up is my board. So up here, the first thing we did was we went through and picked all of the mechanics that we wanted to use for the game. So we went through Magic and picked like basic things out of all the different games that we like, from all the way from Hearthstone to Yu-Gi-Oh to Pokemon, and picked things that we liked and abilities that we liked. And we also went through and said, what are some things that we wish we could do? I also went through and made little line drawings of all of logos to go with it. The layout of the card was designed so that all of the information is on the left-hand side of the card, so that you can see every ability while your cards are in your hand. You can see all the cost. and you can easily spot what the type of the card is. Not to get too overly into it, we broke down our cards into the different types of cards that we wanted to use, and each one has its own different ability. And then where we really tried to be innovative was how the board plays. So pretty much everyone plays like 1v1. Pick and choose which side you want to play stuff on. You have, for example, your summons go up here. Your lords can be played right in these two slots. Your chieftain is played down in the bottom. So the idea is that you have to beat the chieftain before you can beat the player. So it kind of adds some time to what is normally a pretty quick game. And you can also play 4 people on one set of boards. So here's an example of some of my friends that I photoshopped their silhouettes and then had them playing an
that's
actual
awesome.
game. So we actually developed a story to follow the main character, to add something for people that are into reading or into storytelling or something like that, so that the game has something to build off of.
Yeah.
We then created a timeline of all the different parts of the story and the different ages or decades or whatever you would like to call it. And then we have kind of a breakdown of some of the characters here and some of the art that I had done. So
yeah, the art, you were saying you were at Stick Figures and you were able to develop this?
This is after 5 years of design school and a lot of money.
Right. But that's awesome.
But yeah, thank you. So I wanted this to be low cost of entry so more people could play it. You have a quicker customer acquisition cost. As far as the style of art, a lot of the art is super detailed, and then some games are super non-detailed. So I have like a image board of the style of art that I chose. And as you can see, I kind of wanted to be very loose. So if you want to break down one of the things, if you look at this angel's wing, it's just a bunch of basic strokes with different shades.
Yeah.
But when you zoom out, it looks super detailed.
It does.
Same on this one. From a distance, these look super clean and like they're very detailed, but if you zoom in, it's 2 different colors.
Wow.
And it's kind of discreet. And same for this one. If you zoom in, there's really no detail to this other than it's very brushstrokey, but if you zoom way out, it looks really detailed.
Yeah.
So because these cards are printed on like 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches, you can get away with a lot of the art being looser, and it's still going to look tight and well developed as well.
I'm
There's
just
a lot of stuff that
blown away with all the critical thinking right now with this. I mean, it's amazing.
In order to test the theories on how you play and stuff, I had to first I printed out with no artwork all of the cards with all of the effects and stuff on it. And then you're trying to, when you're making these effects, predict how people are going to use them in a way with each other. So as you see, we had a bunch of dice and a bunch of hodgepodge of gray over here. And so me and my friends and my teachers were playing rounds of these games to critique rules and try to make the game go faster or go slower. I took the line drawings and made full 3D tokens and had them 3D printed.
Awesome.
So I even did size comparison where I printed out 3 different sizes to see how they looked on the card and how they compared to the size on here and travel size and all that good stuff. And then this is printed out on some nicer paper, still paper. And then as far as getting the art, one of the big things is I wanted the artist signatures to be on all the cards. So you'll notice that if I go to the cards over here, this will zoom. This is one of my cards. It has my signature right here.
I mean, I just think about just how thoughtful with the signatures and thinking about how the players would play and making the game go fast and slow. And there's just so much to think about. I would have never have thought that a game would be all of those concepts, or just blowing my mind, I guess.
Yeah, so the signatures actually came from some of the research that we did where a lot of people would get cards signed and it would ruin the value of the card. I like to give people credit. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different countries represented in my artist. I have someone from Belarus, someone from Vietnam, someone from the Philippines, 2 people that were from Indonesia.
How'd you connect with them?
Pakistan.
I mean, just online?
Found their artwork online and asked them if they could do art, and they set up a Fiverr account. Some of the other people I found on Fiverr, some of the other people I found this guy on Instagram. So I've actually had people reach out to me that worked on other games that want to get their art out, that want to work on mine. This is some of the rendering for the packaging. I photoshopped some of my artwork and stylization onto the card. So even thinking about limited shelf space and trying to get into the market, I wanted my packaging to be where you could set it straight up and pull things out the bottom, or you can see the kind of the cut line right here.
Mm-hmm.
You could cut it out and lay it down flat, take up a different amount of space. Like when you go to the store and you're having to pick out, choose between 3 different toys, for example, which one do you pick and why do you pick it? Most likely it's because of the packaging.
Right.
So you have to think about all of that. That being said, how I lay all this stuff out is this is called Illustrator. I have the boxes, and you can edit how see-through the boxes are. So you can edit in here how much it's see-through, and you have to compare that to how much the text reads and print them out and see how people read it. The size of the icons, the size of the text and the numbers. I remember I printed out 4 different cards with all different sizes of print to see how they read across the table. Changing the font down here so it was easier to read, where stuff goes on the card, where the signature goes, because all the artworks are different. So like this one, for example, was kind of hard to see the signature here, but it reads really well right here.
You were talking about the digital versus games that you would buy in the store. I mean, would you ever consider going that route with this?
Goal would be more of a digital version, just because the only successful printed game is Magic the Gathering. Pretty much every other printed game, once you do market research, like for example, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon is successful because of the collector's edition type stuff from the TV show. Same for Yu-Gi-Oh! They make most of their money off of TV and commercials. I would prefer to have it printed because I like printed. But if you're trying to look at what's going to make it successful, you kind of have to go where the market dictates you have to go. But the last thing I have to show is some of the artwork. So this is Desmondius. This is some of the other people. This is Sheffrindil. This is the main character, Hawk. This is who the story is based around. This is Ilfrind. He's a goblin.
Oh, that's so cool.
This is Lucille first, Mikael, Niravind. He's actually 3 different people that formed into one for this card. And then dragons, because who doesn't love dragons?
Oh, man. Austin, thank you for being a risk taker and sharing your thoughts and experiences today. It was really awesome and cool. My kids are going to love viewing all of that.
So don't be afraid to like what you like. Don't let anybody tell you that you're nerdy for liking a game, or that you're not cool unless you do this type of. So if you find something that you're good at, or find something that you enjoy, find out how you can make money at it, because that's the best advice that anyone has ever given me.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. Thanks, Austin, so much.
No problem. Have a good day.
You too.